When winter closes in, footwear becomes survival equipment. Cold feet end journeys, sap strength, and accelerate hypothermia faster than most people realize. The Vikings understood this intimately. They crossed frozen terrain, worked at sea in sub-zero temperatures, and fought campaigns through northern winters without modern insulation, membranes, or synthetic foams. Yet their winter boots kept them functional where many modern designs fail. Comparing Viking winter boots to modern insulated boots is not nostalgia. It is a test of endurance philosophy versus convenience engineering. The answer to which wins depends entirely on how and where they are used. How Viking winter boots were built to work with the body, not isolate it. Viking boots were typically made from leather, often cowhide or seal skin, constructed as turnshoes with seams inverted to reduce wear. Insulation came not from thick padding, but from layered systems. Wool socks, foot wraps, and dried grass or moss were added inside the boot as needed. These materials trapped air, wicking moisture, and could be adjusted daily. This design allowed the foot to stay dry through management rather than sealing. Moisture moved outward instead of being trapped against the skin. In cold conditions, dryness matters more than thickness. The boot was, part of a system, not a standalone solution. Why flexibility, honestly, mattered more than rigidity in winter travel. Viking boots were soft and flexible. This allowed constant foot movement, which maintained circulation. Warmth comes from blood flow as much as insulation. Rigid modern boots often restrict movement, compress insulation, and reduce circulation, especially during long marches or, static work. A flexible sole also allowed better ground feel, reducing fatigue and improving balance on snow, ice, and, uneven terrain. The Vikings valued mobility because, immobility meant death. How modern insulated boots attempt to solve the problem differently. Modern winter boots rely on synthetic insulation, waterproof membranes, and thick rubber soles. These work well initially. They block wind, repel water, and trap heat efficiently in short exposures. The problem emerges over time. Once moisture from sweat accumulates inside, insulation collapses. Waterproof membranes prevent escape. Feet become damp, then cold. In extreme conditions, this cycle accelerates frostbite risk. Modern boots promise protection, but, they demand perfect conditions. Why is moisture management the deciding factor in cold survival? Viking systems, you see, assumed moisture was inevitable. They planned for it. Foot wraps could be removed and dried, while grass insulation could be replaced every day. Leather, on the other hand, breathed and dried near fires. Modern boots assume moisture can be excluded entirely. But when that assumption fails, the whole system, it just collapses. Survival really favors redundancy and adaptability. So, let's talk about how Vikings use layered insulation to outperform fixed designs. A Viking could, adjust insulation based on their activity level. When they were on the move, lighter insulation helped prevent sweating. But during rest, adding more dry material increased warmth. This dynamic approach actually kept their feet warmer over time than any static insulation could. Now, here's the thing. Modern boots just can't be adjusted internally without taking off the entire boot. And honestly, that really discourages any sort of proactive moisture control. Flexibility beats convenience in prolonged cold. How traction and repair factor into long-term use. Viking boots used leather soles, sometimes roughened or fitted with iron cleats when needed. While not as grippy as modern rubber on ice, they could be repaired easily. A torn sole or seam could be fixed with simple tools. Modern boots offer excellent traction initially, but are difficult to repair. Sole delamination or membrane failure often ends their service life. Durability includes repairability. How modern users can apply Viking principles today. A modern winter setup can, really outperform both extremes by combining elements. Breathable leather boots with removable liners, wool socks and foot wraps. Well, these recreate Viking moisture control while benefiting from modern materials. Carrying spare dry insulation and rotating it, that actually prevents moisture buildup. This approach works especially well for winter hiking, hunting and cold weather camping. The lesson here, really, is not to abandon modern boots altogether, but rather to abandon reliance on them alone. Why is it, you might wonder, that comfort expectations can so easily distort our modern judgment? Well, modern boots, you see, prioritize immediate comfort. The Vikings, on the other hand, prioritize function over sensation. Their boots honestly felt cold at first, but stabilized over time. Modern boots, by contrast, feel warm right away, but degrade quietly. Short-term comfort, in many cases, hides long-term risk. Historical gear really assumed a remarkable level of endurance. So, what archaeological and ethnographic evidence confirms is quite fascinating. Cold climate cultures all around the world, they actually use similar principles. Inuit kamiks, Sami footwear, and medieval European boots, they all favoured breathability and layered insulation. And, interestingly, these systems evolved independently simply because, they worked. Modern insulated boots, honestly, are just recent experiments by comparison. History keeps what survives. Which truly wins depends on context, not marketing. For short outings, urban use and controlled conditions, modern insulated boots win on convenience. But for extended exposure, variable activity and survival contexts, Viking-style systems outperform by managing moisture, circulation and adaptability. The winner is not a boot, it is a philosophy. Why does this comparison, still matter today? Well, as people venture into colder environments for work, recreation, or just general preparedness, understanding why ancient systems worked actually prevents modern failure. Technology, in the end, does not replace physics or biology. The Vikings, interestingly enough, did not conquer cold by simply sealing it out. They, in fact, lived with it intelligently. That lesson, I must say, remains undefeated. If you value serious historical analysis that translates into real-world performance, do consider supporting Echoes of Valor. Subscribe to the channel, share this guide with fellow history and survival enthusiasts, and help preserve knowledge forged in the harshest winters humans have ever endured.